So, hello everyone, welcome back after a short break. I hope you found the previous session interesting and connected on LinkedIn with Ferdinand. So, our next speaker is Simon Beyer. He's not live, it's a pre recorded session, but the topic is interesting. It's about performance branding on Facebook and Instagram, how the evolved consumer change their behavior, their behavior changes, right? So we will watch the pre-recording session. A couple of things before we start. Our sponsor is Pact, so we'd like to thank Pact for sponsoring the conference, and they're giving away 20 ebooks, which is called AI powered commerce. So if you're interested in building that, the way to get that is just being active at the conference, ask different questions, and yeah. So I think we are ready to watch Simon, and I will see you in the end of the session. Enjoy.
Hi guys, great to be here with you today. My name is Simon Beyer, and I'm going to talk about something that is crucial, at least to my understanding, for many brands today in order to survive in the competitive industry that we are in. And that topic is something that I call performance branding. I'm sure there are other ways to express that as well, but I think performance branding goes pretty well. This keynote is aiming at many things. One of them is to inspire you to come up with new ideas together with your teams. Hopefully, I can also give you some kind of incentive to dig further into some of the topics I discussed today. And even more important, consider the importance of continuous learning in order to develop. Before I dig into to my presentation that you'll soon see, I want to raise another topic that's close to my heart, and that is the magnitude that learning and also understanding has. A few years ago, I spent a lot of time writing a book. The book looks like this. It's in Swedish only at the moment, unfortunately, but will hopefully be published in other languages as well. And this book is called The Digital Evolution, Perspective and Strategies. And what I did was that I wanted to understand what is digitalization actually, what does it mean, and what kind of implications does it have for organizations. And I spent a bit over 12 months talking to experts, reading pretty much all the papers and magazines and books that were out there. And I wanted to find some kind of meaning with all of this, like how can brands, organizations, departments reason when it comes to this change that we see and the impact that digitalization has. And the conclusion that I made after all this writing and reading and interviewing experts, that was that key to survival and also key to growth, that is all about adaptation, meaning adapting to the context that you're active in. And this goes for the medical industry, it goes for hospitality industry, it goes for banking, it even goes for government and NGOs. And it is also something that is highly relevant for the marketing community. And in order to adapt and in order to be competitive, we must understand what we actually need to be adaptive to. And that is what my presentation today will focus on. How and what we can actually adapt in a world which is constantly changing. I'm now switching over to my PowerPoint. I'm now presenting for everyone. Doesn't work, so I'm going to try again. Just give me 1 or 2 seconds. This is something that I've grown very accustomed to during the last 2 years, and that is that technology isn't really always on my team. But as it looked from my perspective, you are now able to watch my screen, which is amazing. And I did introduce myself previously. My name is Simon. I'm a partner and chief strategy officer at Engager. Engager is one of the leading agencies, independent agencies within the industry, focusing on meta advertising and marketing. We are also branching into TikTok, actually, which is interesting for us. But our history and our core of expertise and experience lies within meta advertising. And of course, it's not only me who's involved in this business. We are quite a few people. Besides myself, we are around 80 people working with over 100 clients, everything from BMW to American Express, and also smaller brands, of course. And the reason why we are so many here is because we of course we have the performance part of it, but we also have a lot of project leads. We have creative specialists, we have designers, and everything else. So we can cater for the entire customer journey, including production. I'm currently standing in our studio in Stockholm office. We also have an office in Copenhagen and in Berlin. We've been around for a bit over 10 years now, meaning that we've seen a lot of things happening, algorithm changing, and Instagram being incorporated, and Reels coming along. So we have a lot of experience of the evolution. And one key thing for us is to always learn new things, to always, of course, challenge ourselves, but always try to understand a bit more what's going on, what are the trends, what affects us, and how can we prepare for the future. And one way of preparing is to kind of challenge yourself in your mindset of these interactions that we try to create with end users, and try to change and adapt our mindset on how we should think and figure when we produce material, for example. And there has been a lot of change over not only over the last 2 years, but also before that, in terms of users and expectations and so forth. And I would say that it started almost 40 years ago or something, when globalization hit off in a way, in terms of logistics and so forth. So we as consumers got used to having products from all over the world, which previously wasn't possible, and that kind of increased our expectations. Then 20 years ago, you can also claim 30 years ago, but around 20 years ago, digitalization really hit off as well, and that had as an effect that the expectations increased even more, because now all of a sudden people could have all the world's information, we could talk to everyone, and so forth. And after digitalization, we had the pandemic for 2 years, and that was like globalization and digitalization, but on speed. It increased development a lot, and also the way that the users and the clients expect and experience things, and also how they act. And this is why I think performance branding aspect is so important, because it kind of adds a new layer which fits into today's user very much. And I mentioned mindset before, and one important takeaway is that today everything that you post for your feed or wherever as an ad, that is a brand experience from the user. But everything is also about performance, because no matter what kind of content you post, you want the user to take one step further. That could be a step into liking you more as a brand, or wanting to purchase your product even more. But everything you do is positioning from your brand in the brand experience, but everything's also about performance. Hence, we must mix the two of these and make the most out of it. Because we see a lot of content today, and that kind of has an effect on us. But what is important to also do is to create some kind of incentive that people want to act on it. That's where the performance part comes in. And this might sound like something you read in a yoga book or something, but I do totally understand that everyone is about creating some kind of result. But we don't only want to create result today, we also want to create results tomorrow, the next week, the next month, and hopefully even the next year. So when we think about how we position ourselves when it comes to advertising, when it comes to content, we must also see it as a long-term game. Because the ad, as you see here, which is a great ad that we did for a shirt manufacturer called Eton, that is an ad that encourages the person or the user to buy a shirt. But within that audience that this ad is targeted, that audience will eventually be full, and you won't have an interaction anymore. And that is where the branding part comes in as something interesting. And now I want to make a segue into user behavior, how that has shifted, specifically during the pandemic. Because what happened during the pandemic was that we had so much time to spend on our cell phones or on our desktops, but just being online, that our user behavior kind of shifted from being pragmatic into more of a discovery mode, you could say. So what do I mean with pragmatic? Well, for example, a few years ago, going online could be that you wanted to buy a plane ticket or a train ticket or, I don't know, a new cell phone, but you wanted to purchase something or do something very concrete. And that meant that you would go online, you would buy that thing, then you would go offline. What we see today is that the time spent online is increasing day per day. So we're spending so much time online. So it's far from being pragmatic. It's very much more like a discovery phase. You can compare it to if you walk down the street. You're not going to buy anything, but you're just walking down the street because it's nice weather and you want to be outside. You do still look into the shop window, but you maybe weren't planning to buy something. But if you see something nice, you might go in and buy it or consider buying it. The same goes for today's discovery mode when it comes to using digital services and social media. So we do discover a lot, but of course we also want to trade, and that is why Meta has initiated a saying which is discovery commerce, and that is the noble art of finding ways where you can actually make an incentive for the consumer to buy something that they perhaps weren't looking for. And you do this by making it very simple and easy and very evident for the user that this is something that they should buy, and it is easy to buy. And there are several other implications in terms of our usage of social media that is interesting. One is the amount of time that we spent, or the not so much time that we spent per post in the feed, and that is 1.5 seconds. You really need to catch the attention, and in stories it's even less. And given this, you need to have some kind of content that actually holds the user there and makes them read and try to understand what you want to say. And one example of how you can do this is displayed in this ad, I would say. That is where you merge the performance part, meaning the buying and the purchase, with the branding, meaning positioning your brand and making it interesting and relevant. The ad that you see here on the phone is for a cosmetic retailer called Kicks here in the Nordics or Northern Europe. And the plan initially was to make an ad which was focused on branding, only focusing the person in the back with the hair and the copy, just to create some kind of experience of the brand. But given that we have understood that people are today much more willing to buy things without going through the whole classical customer journey, we try to create an incentive by also positioning the products, product images in the ad. And what we did see was that we had a massive increase in clicks, but also in purchases. So from going from just having a branding ad, we included some easy elements that made it more available to buy the products, but also made it easier for the customer to actually understand how they could and what they could buy. So it's not about taking away the branding aspect that is needed. It's not about taking away the performance aspect, because that is also necessary. It is about merging the two of them to make it easier for the user. Because that is another finding in many studies around the world, that no one likes hurdles. No one likes when it's challenging to accept to buy the product. We must make it very, very easy. And this is a way that we found out we could do it. And this is not everything. There is more. I guess many of you have heard or read about the metaverse, which is something that Facebook is betting very hard on. And the metaverse will rely very much on virtual reality and also augmented reality. And this is why I think it's interesting to also check up new formats, such as which technical opportunities allows us to do. In this ad that you see here, that is a AR ad we did for a company that sells party attire and party costumes, and they are normally extremely focused on conversion. But we convinced them to try a branding ad as well, in order to see if we can get some new audiences to like it. And what happened was that people went to this augmented reality ad and they tried it out, and they got to spend a lot of time with the brand. What also happened was that the conversion rate was twice as high as we anticipated, because when people were in there, they were more likely to buy than we could ever imagine. And return on ad spend increased with 78%, which is also a great example of how you can have great results when you try new things. And this is on the Meta platforms, but you can also find augmented reality on Pinterest, for example. They have great stuff for both furniture and cosmetics. Snap is great when it comes to the Snap Lens. And what this allows you to do when you try new formats and new techniques, it allows you to interact with users in new ways. And you can also find triggers that you didn't know exist. So merging performance and branding, but also finding new formats and working with that is great. And why you should do this is due to many reasons. But one is, as I stated in the beginning, the long-term gain, which is so important. And I'm not going to show a graph. I'm a big fan of graphs. I hope that you're the same. And what this graph displays is on the x-axis, you can see the sale increase, and then on the y-axis, you have time. And what I want to talk about here is the difference between long and short value. Because you can see the performance marketing line that goes up and down, pretty volatile. And I'm certain if you work with marketing, paid marketing, that you have experienced this. You put in a lot of spend, you get a lot of sales or conversions or whatever you're looking for, and then you drop spend and the conversions also drops. And this has been functioning if you are going after certain periods or so, but if you're looking over a longer time period, it's not really sustainable, due to many reasons. One is that ads is becoming so much more expensive. So what I do want to focus on here is instead the opportunities that you have with brand building. That if you have the patience, if you have the time, if you have the energy to simultaneously work on your brand building and merge branding and performance, as I talked about earlier. Because if you do that in a right manner, you will over time uh, increase your sales even more than what you could do with the performance. And again, this requires a lot of internal buying, and it also requires resources. But if you have the patience, if you want to go for the long term, I would definitely advise you to try out both performance and brand building. And there are one important thing when we talk about these new formats and new ways of doing things, and that is to challenge yourself in your beliefs, in your methodology, and also challenge your colleagues and your whole organization into trying to find ways that are suitable for the future. Initially, I talked about adaptation and the importance of adaptation. This is what that is about. Ask yourself, is the way we do things around here the right way for the future, or was it just the right way for the past? And if you come to the conclusion that, maybe it's not exactly right for the future, well, then you need to find the solutions that are right for the future. And one way of doing this is to work with new audiences, because as I mentioned in the shirt example, you have your classical and pretty well-functioning audience that delivers good KPIs. But again, that will be full. In order to drive new business, you need to look outside of the classical audience and into new audiences that are a bit more uncertain. And there you most likely also need to look for new triggers. What will this audience work with? How do they like my copy? What kind of images, etc.? And naturally, that will be a bit more expensive initially, but it can very, very well be worth that investment, because you have new clients that you would never have before, and if you treat them correctly and provide value, they will most likely stay with you for a long time. And one last thing that I want to add into this pack of wisdom is the importance of the creatives, because we spend a lot of time finding the right audience, doing everything we can to track and so forth. But performance branding is also very much about creating content that is not just good, but world class. And if you do that, you're more likely to improve the branding experience, but also attract people that will actually want to convert later on. So with those final words, I'd like to say thanks. Thanks for listening to me. I truly hope that you could get some kind of inspiration, some kind of knowledge and input that you can use for yourself or for your team, or some ideas that you can dig deeper into. And with that, I want to thank you for today. Thanks for spending your time with me. If you ever stop by Stockholm, please give me a shout, and I'll show you around. Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.